The signal reached Earth at 0200 hours Galactic Standard Time, just a whisper over the deep space relay, half buried in static. The transmission bore the mark of a distress beacon, one long used by the United Earth Fleet, but warped, distorted. It looped endlessly with 3 desperate words in English, words that hadn't been spoken in a council hall in generations. They betrayed us. When Admiral Elaine Vargas received the message, she already knew. The eyes of her command staff, battle-hardened veterans and genetically augmented tacticians alike, darted across the situation table as if confirmation would come from the stars themselves. It had. At the edge of known space, the planet of Wrangel 3, a joint research outpost under Earth and Council jurisdiction, had been annihilated. Not by pirates, not by rogue AI, by Council strike cruisers bearing the banner of the Galactic Accord. The betrayal wasn't subtle, it was a statement. Humanity, once a junior member of the Accord, had clawed its way to prominence through sheer tenacity. Earth was not the strongest race, nor the most advanced, but it was relentless. In the 5 centuries since joining the interstellar community, humans had fought side by side with species that bent space-time and spoke in quark harmonics. They'd bled for council wars, brokered peace in fractured sectors, and rebuilt planets shattered by entropy engines, but they were never loved. Not truly. Admired? Yes. Respected? Sometimes. Feared? Always. Earth's rise had been too fast, too loud, too human, and the other species, the Alarian, all grace and logic, the brutal Lokthar, the hive intelligences of Vezal, had tolerated that rise only so long as it served them, until the moment it didn't, until Earth dared propose equal representation on the High Council, and now, Wrangel 3 was ash. Admiral Vargas stood at the bridge of the UNS Dread Horizon, her voice calm and measured as she spoke to her fleet. Operation Void Reckoning as a go. The fleet moved in silence, cloaked in the black silk of space. 200 warships, each bristling with weapons forbidden by Accord Treaty. Earth had built them in secret, in the hidden orbital shipyards of the Oort Cloud, away from prying alien eyes. They were not ships designed for diplomacy. They were vengeance given form. Some would say it was madness, suicide even, for one planet to challenge the might of the Galactic Council. But those voices did not understand Earth. Not truly. Earth had never needed a fair fight. Earth had needed only a reason, and the Council had just given them one. At the edge of Council space in the Kepha Drift, the Alarian border outpost of Zeltal observed strange fluctuations in FTL trajectories. It was their first warning. It was also their last. Earth's fleet dropped out of fold space with all the subtlety of a god's fist. The Dread Horizon led the charge, accompanied by a wall of kinetic carriers and plasma strike frigates. Admiral Vargas did not issue an ultimatum. There would be no words. Zeltal fell in 17 minutes. The Council response was confusion, then fury, then fear. They scrambled to deploy defense fleets from Halloran Prime, from the gas world fortress of Perelos, from the ring world sanctuaries of the Vezal. But each time they mobilized, Earth was already moving, already striking. The assault was not linear, it was surgical. Systems vital to Council cohesion, communications relays, fuel processing hubs, command relays, went dark without warning. The human fleet moved like a virus, one that had learned its host too well. And then came the message, a live transmission broadcast on every Council channel, hijacking diplomatic frequencies, emergency bandwidth, even entertainment grids. It was Admiral Vargas, standing in her dress blacks before a backdrop of stars and fire. You taught us war, you taught us diplomacy, you taught us how to rise, but you never imagined we'd rise this high. You sat in your towers and watched us burn for your crusades, your borders, your pride. Now we return the favour, she paused. This is not war, this is judgment. Then the transmission cut, and the stars burned brighter. In the depths of the Vexal memory nexus, the matriarch stirred. They had not moved in decades, their minds tethered to the data tides of the nexus, their thoughts flowing between countless subminds and neural tributaries. It was rare for the Vexal to speak in vocal tones, rarer still for their prime node to activate an external channel. But humanity had changed everything. Within the quiet halls of thought and light, Trillions of sensory feelers pulsed with worry. The humans had struck 12 more systems since the annihilation of Zeltal. No warnings, no ultimatums, just precise, unrelenting silence followed by annihilation. What confounded the Vaisal most was not the scale, it was the efficiency. No race had ever fought like this. No race could. The Vaisal had studied war for millennia in cold, logical terms, yet Earth waged it with something deeper than tactics, something irrational, something feral. "We should have culled them," spoke a matriarch voice at last, her tone a deep resonance in the living ether. They were always deviation made manifest. But the truth ran deeper than regret. The Council's betrayal had not come from fear alone, it had come from prophecy. 47 cycles before the fall of Rengel III, an artifact had been unearthed on the dead moon of Thessa Prime, an obsidian obelisk buried beneath layers of folded spacetime, protected by an extinct civilization older than the known galaxy. The Alarian had deciphered it first, and the Council kept the findings secret from humanity. The prophecy was encoded in math, recursive entropy patterns and algorithmic time seeds. It spoke of a species born in war, evolved in pressure, surviving by adapting faster than the universe could wound them. A species that would rise late but burn bright, and eventually bring the Accord to its knees. It did not name humanity, but it described them. The Alarian, ever patient and precise, began laying plans. Not for immediate destruction. No, that would be too obvious, too blunt. Instead, they whispered in council chambers, quietly shifted funding, redirected intelligence, they seeded mistrust, shaped perception. And when Earth finally demanded council equality after centuries of loyal service, they struck. The decision was meant to contain Earth, not destroy it. A demonstration, a reminder. But like all species forged in struggle, humanity only learned from pain. On the Yuan's Wraith Hand, deep in Council territory, Captain Darius Coe stood in a blacked-out operations room, watching the orbital footage of their latest strike. His ship, built for silent warfare and infiltration, had just crippled a Lockthar fuel array orbiting the gas giant Aragon 6. No engagement, no resistance. The Lockthar were still rerouting their outer patrols when the human sabotage team dropped antimatter charges on the stabilization rings. "Total systems collapse," whispered one of the intel officers. "Chain reaction took out the entire grid. 6 neighbouring sectors have no warp access now. It'll take them months to re-establish fold routes." Captain Coe didn't smile, he only nodded. "Mark the sector, Black Rose Protocol." The officer froze. "Sir, Black Rose's permanent denial. I know. They were not just destroying infrastructure, they were making it unusable, carving out scars in the very connective tissue of the Council's dominion. Not just war, not just vengeance, punishment." Coe's orders had come straight from Admiral Vargas herself, and even he had trouble believing how far Earth was willing to go. But he understood it. This was no longer about retaliation for Rengel III. This was about never being underestimated again. Far across the galaxy, in the floating citadel of Halarin Prime, the Council convened in emergency session. "What is their end game?" spat the Lockthar warlord, slamming a fist into the table of gravglass. "They don't have the numbers. They don't have the resources." "They have resolve," countered the Alarian speaker, a being of fractal elegance and cold fury. "They burn their own supply lines to make a point. Their losses feed their fury. You think you understand the depth of their rage?" "It's not rage," whispered the Vaixal emissary, connected through a chorus of drone clusters. "It is evolution." The chamber fell silent because it was true. Earth was adapting. Not just strategically, but psychologically. They had cracked the Council's long-standing reliance on predictable manoeuvring, on slow, deliberative war. Humanity moved like a wildfire through bureaucratic stone. The Council had never planned for a species that thrived in collapse. Back on Earth, deep beneath the Pacific crust, the Vault of Concord burned red with movement. Dozens of world leaders stood around the silent forge of war. EarthGov officials, fleet marshals, even former civilian envoys, all stripped of their titles. There were no nations anymore, no divisions, just... "We'll never be allowed back into the Accord," said one of the older diplomats, his voice raw. "Even if we win." Admiral Vargas turned to him, her eyes reflecting the holographic field of stars. "We're not going back. We're not asking for a seat at the table. Then what the hell are we doing? She stepped forward, her voice ironclad. We're building our own table. The High Council chambers on Halloran Prime gleamed with polished obsidian and radiant light, a monument to peace built on uneasy alliances and whispered compromises. Yet, as the latest Council emergency session dragged into its 8th cycle, the Grand Hall felt more like a tomb. The gravity of Earth's onslaught weighed heavily on every delegate. The Council's carefully crafted dominion was unravelling before their eyes piece by piece, and at the centre of the storm stood humanity, unrelenting, unpredictable, and merciless. "We are blind," hissed Lethrin, the Lockthar warlord, his claws twitching with frustration. "They strike where we cannot anticipate. They burn our resources, they shatter our fleets, and worst of all, they sow dissent. Our border worlds whisper of rebellion." Beside him, the Alarian speaker, serene yet deadly, adjusted the flow of her fractal robes. "This is no longer a military problem alone. It is a political and existential threat. Earth has torn away the illusion of Council unity." Vaisal Matriarch Cernal's voice resonated from the surrounding neural mesh, calm but resolute. "There is another factor we have overlooked, the human spirit, their ability to endure, to adapt, to turn loss into fuel. They are the virus in the body of the Accord." The Council's High Chancellor, a being of shifting light named Urath, finally raised a hand. "We must know the true architect behind this rebellion. Who commands Earth's fleet? What drives them beyond revenge?" Thousands of light years away, aboard the UNS Dread Horizon, Admiral Elaine Vargas stared at the holomap flickering before her, a web of star systems falling one by one. Her voice was steady but carried the weight of a nation's fury. The Council's betrayal was personal. Wrangle 3 was the last of many warnings. We fight not just to survive but to demand respect, to forge our destiny. But there is more at stake than revenge. We are fighting for our right to exist. Her second-in-command, Commander Leon Reis, leaned forward, eyes narrowed. Intel reports increased Council political turmoil. The Lockthar factions argue for annihilation. The Alarian propose containment. The Vaigzal grow restless. They are fracturing. Vargas smiled faintly. "Divide and conquer has always been humanity's strength." "Admiral," Rice continued, "we have new intel on the Council's leadership. The High Chancellor Staror Wrath. He wields great influence, but rumours say his power is fragile. If we strike at Halloran Prime, it could shatter the Council." "Then that is our next target," Vargas decided. "Prepare the fleet. We move at dawn." The assault on Halloran Prime began under the cover of a dying star's shadow. Earth's fleet emerged from fold space with the precision of a surgical blade. The Council's defence fleet scrambled, but their numbers were stretched thin, their command fractured. Captain Darius Coe commanded the vanguard, his wraith hand slicing through the Council's perimeter with stealth attacks and electronic warfare. His team disabled key shield generators, opening a path for the main force. Admiral Vargas led the flagship's bridge with unyielding focus. "All units converge on the High Council Citadel. Target the command nexus. We end this today." Explosions erupted across Halloran's orbit as plasma beams lanced through enemy cruisers. The sky above the planet burned with a deadly light show, yet the real battle raged within the Council's command halls. Inside the Citadel, High Chancellor Thufirath watched the chaos unfold through quantum surveillance feeds. His composed facade cracked as the first alarms blared. "They've breached the outer defences," his aide warned. "Council forces are overwhelmed." Irath's voice was cold steel. "Activate the contingency protocol. Evacuate the Council elders. Seal the command core." But even as the evacuation drones lifted, the Dread Horizon's boarding teams descended with relentless determination. Earth's soldiers, enhanced, battle-hardened, and fueled by righteous fury, fought through Council guards, hacking into the central systems. In the command core, the Council's secrets lay exposed. The manipulations, betrayals, and the prophecy that had doomed them all. Admiral Vargas entered the chamber, her presence a silent declaration of victory. "You built your empire on lies," she said quietly, "and you thought we would kneel quietly." She activated a data beacon, broadcasting the Council's darkest secrets across all major networks, proof of their duplicity, their suppression of humanity, and the plans to contain and betray Earth. The transmission sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Across millions of worlds, species long loyal to the Accord questioned their allegiance. The Lochthar bristled with outrage. The Alarian debated openly. The Vaisal retreated into silence, unsure of what this upheaval meant. Meanwhile, Earth citizens watched in solemn triumph as the symbols of their oppression crumbled. The Galactic Council was broken, not by force alone, but by revelation. Admiral Varga stood before her crew on the bridge of the dread horizon. "This is not the end," she said. "It is a new beginning. The galaxy will either accept humanity's place at the table, or be reshaped by fire." The fall of Halarin Prime sent shockwaves through the galaxy like a supernova's blast. The High Council, the supposed unshakable bedrock of interstellar order, was shattered, its authority crumbling overnight. Worlds that once bowed in deference now whispered rebellion, allies reconsidered loyalties, and enemies sharpened their claws. Admiral Elaine Varga stood before the EarthGov Council, the new unified government of humanity's fractured homeworld. In the immense chamber beneath the Pacific, she was no longer just a commander of fleets. She was a symbol, a harbinger of a future none could yet imagine. "Haloran has fallen," she said, voice ringing through the vast hall. "But this war is far from over. The Council's decay was never just about us. It was about control. Control that kept the galaxy divided and weak. We will not inherit their empire. We will build something stronger, something better." The room erupted with cautious applause. Outside, across star systems, the fallout began in earnest. On the shattered surface of Halarin Prime, the once proud capital lay in ruins. Fires burned where crystalline towers had gleamed. The council elders had fled or been captured. Rebel factions seized the moment to carve out domains of power, while opportunistic militias took up arms in the power vacuum. But the true game was political. Lochthar warlord Lethrin convened his war council in the cavernous war halls beneath the ash. His voice was a growl of resolve. "The humans have broken our sacred accord. They have shattered the unity we built. Now, we fight not for alliance, but survival." He outlined a brutal strategy: guerrilla strikes, sabotage, and relentless harassment of Earth's supply lines. To him, this was a war of attrition, a test of endurance where his people excelled. Meanwhile, the Alarian speaker retreated to the floating gardens of Zurelis, calling a convocation of remaining species loyal to the old order. Their aim was to forge a new coalition, not to restore the Council, but to contain humanity before its flames consumed all. "The galaxy must balance," she told the assembly. "Earth's rise threatens the equilibrium. We must act before their fire consumes us all." The Vaisal matriarch Cernal, still connected to her neural nexus, weighed the options silently. Her kind had survived through calculated patience. But even she could sense that the galaxy was entering an era of chaotic flux, one that might favour the unpredictable human spirit, or doom it. Back on Earth, the new EarthGov had begun rapid militarization and diplomacy in equal measure. Starship yards operated 24/7, turning out vessels faster than ever before. But equally important were the Envoy Corps, teams dispatched to fractured Council worlds, carrying messages of peace, trade, and alliance. Commander Leon Rice led one such mission aboard the UNS Hope's Reach. Her target, an independent coalition of systems on the edge of Council space that had not yet committed to either side. "Peace is our best weapon," she told her officers as they prepared to land. "But we won't hesitate to fight if they choose war." Her negotiations were tense. Memories of the Council's betrayal ran deep. Many feared Earth's ambitions. Some questioned if humanity was merely another empire in waiting. But Rice's greatest challenge wasn't diplomacy, it was understanding her own people's hunger for vengeance. Deep in the shadowy corners of the galaxy, a new power stirred, unknown to the Council and humanity alike. A hidden faction watched the chaos unfold with interest. A coalition of exiled species, rogue AIs, and secretive mercenary clans who had long operated beyond the Accord's reach. They called themselves the Veilborn. Their leaders saw opportunity in the Council's collapse and Earth's ascent. The Veilborn thrived in shadows and chaos, masters of espionage and subversion. They began infiltrating supply lines, sowing mistrust among Earth's new allies, and seizing unclaimed worlds. The Veilborn's emergence added a dangerous wildcard to the war. As the galaxy fractured into competing alliances, Admiral Vargas prepared for the inevitable. "We have broken the old order," she told her inner circle aboard the dread horizon. But power without purpose is destruction. We must lead. We must unite or we will burn alone. Her gaze settled on the holomap of the fractured council space. Systems still loyal, systems broken, systems independent. Every star represented a choice, an ally gained or lost, a battle to be fought or avoided. The road ahead was perilous, but humanity was ready. The galaxy was a shattered mirror reflecting 1,000 fractured realities, some burning with war, others trembling on the edge of rebellion, all struggling to find meaning in the chaos left behind by the collapse of the Galactic Council. Amidst the ruins of ancient alliances, a new order was struggling to be born, one forged in fire, sacrifice, and the indomitable will of humanity. Admiral Elaine Vargas stood on the bridge of the UNS Dread Horizon, her eyes fixed on the swirling holomap that displayed the tumultuous sectors of space. Each blinking light was a beacon of hope or a warning of conflict, systems aligned, broken, or lost. She could feel the weight of billions of lives pressing on her shoulders. "We face enemies on all sides," she told her commanders. "The fractured council races, the Veilborn lurking in the shadows, and the ghosts of our own past. But above all, we face the choice. Will humanity rise as a beacon of unity, or fall into the abyss of endless war?" The Veilborn had become an insidious threat. From their hidden bastions beyond the Rim, they orchestrated sabotage and rebellion, manipulating fractured council factions and igniting old rivalries into full-scale conflicts. Their presence was a poison spreading quietly through the bloodstreams of the galaxy's fragile peace. In response, Earth's intelligence networks and special forces intensified their operations, hunting the Veilborn agents and dismantling their networks piece by piece. But the deeper the hunt, the more elusive the enemy became. During a critical mission on the industrial world of Korath, Commander Leon Rice led an elite strike team into the heart of a Veilborn stronghold. The battle was brutal, the enemy merciless. Yet, in the ruins of a collapsed mining complex, Rice discovered something unexpected, a data cache revealing the Veilborn's true aim: to prevent any new power from rising that could restore order, including humanity. "They want chaos to reign forever," Rice reported, "but we won't let that happen." Meanwhile, on the political front, Earth had begun forming the Nexus Alliance, a coalition of willing species and systems committed to rebuilding not the Council, but a new, transparent federation. It was a bold vision, one that required trust and compromise in a galaxy still raw from betrayal and loss. The first Nexus Summit convened aboard the UNS Unity, a massive space station orbiting Terra. Delegates from dozens of species attended, each bringing their history of pain and hope. Among them were former Council loyalists, rebel leaders, and even some wary Veilborn defectors seeking a different path. Admiral Vargas addressed the assembly. "We cannot erase the past, but we can choose our future. This alliance is built not on dominance, but on respect and cooperation. Together we will face the challenges ahead, not as separate races, but as partners in survival." The room was heavy with silence before applause rippled through the crowd. It was a fragile beginning, but a beginning nonetheless. Yet not all were ready to embrace this new dawn. Lokthar warlord Lethrin rallied his remaining forces for one last desperate campaign, an all-out strike against Earth's supply lines in the Outer Rim. He believed the humans' reach was overextended, their unity fragile. As his dreadnought fleet prepared for battle, a shadow moved within his ranks, a Veilborn assassin, sent to ensure the war would last and destroy any chance of peace. But Lethrin's second-in-command, a sharp-minded warrior named Kael'thas, uncovered the plot. With a swift and brutal counterstrike, he turned the tables, assassinating the Veilborn agent and delivering a crippling blow to their network. It was a sign that even in war, alliances could shift, and enemies could become unexpected allies. Back on Earth, Admiral Vargas received word of the victory, but her mind was already on the future. "This war has changed us," she said quietly to her closest advisors. "We are no longer the hunted or the outcasts. We are leaders, but leadership requires more than strength. It requires wisdom, compassion, and the courage to forgive." She looked toward the stars, imagining a galaxy united not by fear, but by hope. "In the ashes of the Accord we will build a phoenix." The final battle was not one of fleets clashing in brilliant firestorms, but a war of ideas, alliances, and trust. The Nexus Alliance expanded, forging treaties and resolving conflicts with unprecedented diplomacy. The Veilborn were pushed back into the shadows, their power diminished but not destroyed. Earth became the heart of a new galactic order, one that acknowledged the mistakes of the past and vowed never to repeat them. Admiral Vargas, now hailed as the founder of the Nexus, addressed a crowd on Terra's rebuilt capital city under the bright light of the twin suns. "We are not perfect," she said, voice steady and inspiring, "but we are united. Together we have faced betrayal and fire. Together we have risen from the ashes, and together we will write a new story for the stars, one where all voices are heard, all lives matter, and the flame of hope never dies." The crowd erupted in cheers, a galaxy's heartbeat echoing across the void. Ashes of the Accord concludes here. Humanity has risen from betrayal to lead a fractured galaxy toward hope, unity, and renewal.